for some reason, it seems like procurement is always one of the last areas to be automated. So we're actually used to helping customers move away from Excel spreadsheets and email.
Thanks so much for joining on this episode of the Neverending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Stronger Procurement. With me today, we've got Mike Marino, a legend in his own right. He led the solution advisory team for SAP's procurement solutions for years, more than a decade, Mike. And we've had the privilege of working together for the last little bit. Can you share with the audience just a little bit more about Mike?
Yeah, so again, Mike Marino, great to be here, Sean. Thank you for having me. Overall, I've got a little over 35 years of experience in the software industry. Early in my career, I worked for a couple of medium-sized ERP companies, focusing primarily on training and deployments. And then in 1999, I was heavily recruited by a couple of former Lawson Software, which is now Infor, colleagues to come work for a small startup called Ariba. Well, I ended up joining, and I spent the next 20 years at Ariba working primarily in pre-sales, which they now call solution advisory, and in leadership. I eventually ended up managing a team of 8 folks before I left and started my own company. Some of the customers that I worked with throughout my career at Ariba include the likes of Disney, Nike, Dole Foods, HP, Starbucks, T-Mobile, some household names for sure. But you could say that my primary area of expertise lies in SAP, Ariba, and a little bit of Fieldglass.
Very cool. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. When you think about your favorite business problem to solve, I mean, with that much experience in procurement, I think we know the area that it's going to come out of. But what is it that just lights you up about making procurement better?
Yeah, so let me back up a second. So I started working with Convergent IS, so I'll say CIS going forward if that's okay with you, in March of this year. So my main role is to provide basically sales expertise on the messaging and positioning of the CIS solutions and how they complement the SAP and Intelligent Spend Business Network, ISBN, or really it's Ariba, right, the ecosystem. For simplicity, I'll use the term Ariba going forward. So, with regard now to, solving some of these problems, all of the CIS solutions exist to make SAP, Ariba, and Fieldglass solutions better. Straight away, in a nutshell. CIS has developed a series of applications or apps that essentially provide leverage for our customers to utilize their SAP, Ariba, and Fieldglass solutions to their maximum potential and efficiency to ultimately gain more benefits out of those solutions.
Love it, Mike. Thank you. And I think, we were talking to Chris, and he was emphasizing adoption. And I think adoption is something that you've talked quite a bit about in terms of the difference between achieving results and missing the mark. Can you share a little bit more about what you've seen work there?
Yeah, adoption was a very heavily used word throughout my career. It was important that we didn't just sell the software and leave, right? The use of the software adoption was critical because we weren't successful if the customers didn't use the software. So you got to remember, the majority of CIS customers that only have SAP, ERP, or S4, even something older, R3, they've seen significant improvements in efficiency and productivity. It's still early in our journey with the Ariba solutions, and specifically the commerce automation solution from Ariba, but we fully expect our customers to achieve things like a near paperless invoicing process. Things like a 50% increase in compliance, 4x increase in process efficiency, even a reduction in DPO, days payable outstanding, again, all due to the automation and exchange of documents between, our customers and their suppliers.
Yeah, it's big. Email is not a vendor portal. And I think there's still entirely too many emails rolling around, right?
No, as a matter of fact, we've spent the majority of, well, I spent the majority of my career overcoming obstacles in this business, having to deal with objections. And, you have to remember, historically, Convergent IS is sold mostly to, smaller companies in the mid-market space. And these organizations have a lot of manual processes. And for some reason, it seems like procurement is always one of the last areas to be automated. So we're actually used to helping customers move away from Excel spreadsheets and email as their primary supplier collaboration platform. As a matter of fact, in the last couple of years, we started engaging with larger companies that already have procurement solutions in place, and they're looking to fill, process and functional gaps primarily. So enter the CIS primary solution. It's called the Procurement Gateway. So this is, as you know, Sean, it's a cloud-based solution, and we come up with this expression. It's like a single pane of glass to get all of your processes, your data, your applications, and of course, it's powered by SAP WorkZone and built on BTP, the Business Technology Platform, and SAP Business Network.
Right on. Yeah, it's one of the catches with some of the public cloud solutions is you get what you get. And, when you need to extend that, sometimes that's tricky.
Yeah, that is an important thing to notice with cloud versus the installed applications, the on-premise that people got used to for so long, and having the full control over those. With cloud-based solutions, you have to use what's given to you to extend those. And so we've leveraged what SAP has provided, which is essentially the BTP, Business Technology Platform. And, we're starting to see some trends with some of the solutions that we've developed that do extend SAP. So, for example, we've got a procurement analytics solution. It's based on the next-gen UX, and it provides pre-built and interactive graphs for all of SAP's procurement portfolio, including Ariba, Fieldglass, S4, and even IBP, which is their integrated business planning. So this solution specifically, in fact, if you're a customer or an Ariba account executive that has or is selling SLP, Supplier Lifecycle and Performance, or Ariba Supplier Risk, this solution is a must-have for you. So those solutions are great on their own, but if you're a customer, they're missing reporting. So our analytics solution fills that gap. It provides both operational and analytical reporting to essentially, complete those two solutions, right? So you mentioned trends. Another trend that we're seeing is in the area of what we refer to as supplier self-service or vendor self-service. So now the minimum point of entry with all the web-based applications and cloud-based solutions, minimum point of entry for suppliers to participate is an internet connection and a web browser. So we're seeing supplier participation and compliance for these solutions at all-time highs. Along these lines, we built a solution for contractor time entry for services. So it deals with SAP service entry sheets. Sean, you probably know, anybody that's been around SAP and used it for services and dealt with service entry sheets knows that there's a few little gaps in this area. So we've actually built it so that you can create service entry sheets against POs that are based on outline agreements or work orders. And it's got a slick interface, streamlined to reduce, essentially what time contractors and time they spend entering time. In fact, we take it a step further. It's got a neat little embedded time card app that essentially is designed for those contractors that are embedded and have to enter time every day. It really cuts down on their time entry. Other things that we've done with this app is support the full service master. So there's scenarios where you've got situations in the service master, as you probably know, where you've got the same service, but the rates vary based on certain conditional metrics, things like maybe overtime or holiday. And our solution supports that. So this reminds me of a customer story. So we had a sales cycle with a very large oil and gas customer many years ago. I won't mention their name. You see their gas stations on every corner. And they had a very detailed selection process. In fact, it took a team of 4 of my folks to do every single demo. I had multiple personas, multiple use cases, and one of their trickier use cases was around service entry sheets and around this concept of having, multiple varying rates. In their case, it was for things like location, working conditions, and even years of experience for the equipment operator. Turns out we didn't win the business, but if I would have had this app from CIS, I could tell you that we probably would have been able to nail that use case back in the day. I'll just say
it's
that.
That extra level of detail of, hey, you're an electrician level 3 and it's raining and you're outside, and that costs a little more.
Exactly right. And it seems like a small gap, right? But if that's critical to your business, you've got to fill it, right? And we've got it. Again, it's in the SAP store. I didn't mention that. It's in the SAP store. And we've got customers leveraging and using this solution today.
That's amazing, Mike. Thank you. I love it when you can connect it back to, you've learned something when you would do something differently if you could do it again. Or in this case, if you had this tool back when, you were confident that you'd have a different outcome. And I think that's one of those beautiful things when you take some of the power of a few different pieces of a solution, right? There's so much capability for services, like in the full service master and services. And I know some folks have been looking at these lean services, and we've had some feedback that those are a bit too lean, but they want the Fiori app. And, there's one more thing that I know you and the team can help them with. So yeah, Mike, that's a beautiful thing. When you think about other lessons that you've taken away from your role and in helping so many customers over so many years, what's maybe 1 or 2 things that you would hope either a procurement director or an SAP director would take away from this conversation that you would hope they'd remember 6 weeks later?
Yeah, so, I think, first and foremost is when you've got a gap in your solution and if you've come from the past where you used on-premise solutions and you're used to just building it, change your thought pattern into what can we utilize that might already be out there to augment what we have without having to build it ourselves. So check the SAP store. Leverage solutions like, our gateway solution, procurement gateway solution, that will allow you to get the most out of your SAP investment or SAP Ariba investment.
Yeah, it's super helpful when you can buy instead of build, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the primary takeaway is the SAP and the Ariba ecosystem, Sean, very broad, very robust, very powerful. They provide a ton of value on their own. But the reality is they're cloud-based solutions. They're not going to do everything you need them to do. And to truly unlock the value and get the most potential out of those solutions, you should be looking at extensions and things like the procurement gateway from Convergent IS to maximize your investment.
That's amazing. Mike, thank you so very much. Any last thoughts that you want to leave with our audience?
No, I'm going to leave it at that, Sean. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Amazing, Mike. Thanks so much for taking the time to join today. And for all of you listening, I wish for you a stronger supply chain and stronger procurement for your SAP solutions and your teams. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.